In the small town of Willowbrook, nestled between rolling hills and cradled by a river that mirrored the sky, lived a man named Aaron. His ambition was well known, an ever-burning flame that pushed him forward while others lingered. His father, a modest farmer who spent his life coaxing life from the earth, would often say, "Son, remember that plans without faith are like seeds without water. They may sprout but never thrive." Aaron's father, Samuel, was a man of quiet wisdom with lines on his face carved by years of both toil and joy. He spent mornings in the field and evenings under the glow of the oil lamp, reading stories from an old leather-bound Bible. It was from Samuel that Aaron inherited not just his sharp mind, but the stubborn streak that often drove a wedge between them. To Aaron, life was a series of obstacles to overcome, not mysteries to accept. He dreamed of lifting his family from the shadow of hardship, not by nurturing fields but by conquering markets. And so, he built his plans as one constructs a fortress, stone by stone. The golden opportunity. One fateful day, the wind carried more than just the scent of wildflowers. It brought the promise of change. A stranger arrived in Willowbrook. Mr. Whitaker, a polished man from the city whose silver hair and sharp suit made him stand out like a hawk among sparrows. Whitaker spoke of progress and profit, of factories that churned wealth and prosperity. Aaron's heart raced as he listened to Whitaker outline the plan. A state-of-the-art factory on the edge of town, a place that would manufacture goods and bring in untold revenue. The venture required a partner who would invest not just money but sweat and spirit. For Aaron, this was the culmination of years of dreaming. That evening, Aaron sat at the dinner table, barely tasting the stew Sarah had made. His wife, with eyes as blue as the sky after rain, watched him in silence. Finally, she set down her spoon and reached across the table to touch his hand. "Aaron, you've been quiet," Sarah said, her voice steady but filled with the kind of concern that only a wife's heart could muster. "I'm thinking about taking the deal, Sarah. This is it, our chance to leave the fields behind forever. Imagine a life where we don't have to worry if the rain will come or if the frost will ruin everything." Sarah glanced at Samuel, who sat at the head of the table, his eyes lowered as if in deep thought. The old man finally looked up, his gaze steady. "Ambition can be good, son, but don't build a tower so tall that you can't see the ground below." Aaron bristled but forced a smile. "Father, times are changing. We can't cling to old ways forever." Reluctantly, Sarah nodded, whispering a prayer as she did. The air around them crackled with unspoken hopes and unseen trepidations. Rising tides and shadows. The factory construction began, a testament to Aaron's determination. Masons laid bricks as the sound of hammers echoed across the fields. Townspeople came to watch, some with awe, others with suspicion. The building rose higher each day, promising a future where Willowbrook would be known not for its crops but for its industry. Aaron was relentless, his days consumed by blueprints and ledgers, his nights filled with calculations that he carried out under the flickering light of his oil lamp. The scent of ink and the crinkle of paper became his lullabies. Sarah would watch him from the doorway, her eyes filled with worry. Their conversations grew shorter, their laughter more rare. Erin no longer noticed the way her hair caught the morning light or the song she hummed as she swept their porch. Then, just as the factory's frame reached completion, a storm swept across the land, not of wind and rain, but of economic upheaval. News arrived of financial markets in the city collapsing like a house of cards. Investment froze, and Mr. Whitaker, the very man who had promised the world, vanished into thin air, taking with him the remaining funds that Erin had risked. Erin stood alone in the empty shell of his unfinished factory, the place that had once been the vessel for his dreams, now an echo chamber of his failures. The townspeople who once looked at him with admiration, now exchanged glances heavy with pity and gossip. Whispers followed him wherever he went, curling around him like smoke. The deepening despair. One evening, Erin returned home to find Sarah sitting at the kitchen table, a book of Psalms open in front of her. She lifted her head, eyes glistening. "Erin," she said, her voice a fragile thread, "maybe this is a moment to find our way back to what matters." But Erin felt raw, like an open wound. He pulled away from her touch, the weight of shame too heavy to bear. "Sarah, you don't understand. I can't go back. If I stop now, everything was for nothing." The argument that followed was one born of exhaustion and despair. Words flew like arrows, wounding them both. Erin stormed out into the night, the cool air biting against his skin as he walked aimlessly, the town fading behind him. The old oak tree on the edge of the riverbank, a place he had visited as a child when life's burdens felt too great, stood like a silent guardian. Lightning split the sky, and for a moment, he thought he saw a figure standing under the gnarled branches. An old man with eyes that seemed to glow with ancient wisdom. "Why are you here, boy?" The figure's voice carried on the wind, raspy and familiar. "I failed," Erin said, the rain mingling with the tears that ran down his face. "I tried to control everything, planned every detail, and it all fell apart." The old man nodded, his expression softened by understanding. "Plans are like the river, Erin. You can build dams and channels, but in the end, it flows where it wills. Bend with it, don't fight it." The words settled deep in Erin's heart, like seeds finally finding fertile ground. When he looked up again, the figure was gone, leaving only the rustle of the wind and the rain's rhythm. The resolution, rebuilding from the ashes. Erin returned home drenched and trembling. Sarah met him at the door without a word, her arms around him, warm and forgiving. In the days that followed, Erin found solace in small things. The morning sun filtering through their window, the laughter of children playing in the fields, and the gentle way Sarah braided her hair by the fire. He began working with Samuel in the fields again, each furrow turned by the plow a quiet act of humility. He reconnected with old friends, shared stories at the town gatherings, and joined Sarah in volunteering at the local church. One day, a surprising offer came from the local farmers' cooperative. They proposed using the unfinished factory as a community center and a food processing space to support local farmers. Erin's eyes lit up, not with the spark of ambition but with the warmth of purpose. He agreed, and soon the factory buzzed with life, not as a monument to one man's dream, but as a lifeline for an entire community. At the center's grand opening, Aaron stood beside Sarah, their hands clasped. The townspeople cheered, not for a businessman but for a man reborn. Samuel, with tears in his eyes, clasped Aaron's shoulder. "Proud of you, son." Aaron looked around at the faces that once whispered about him, now smiling with gratitude. The once echoing factory now pulsed with laughter, work, and hope. He finally understood. The greatest plans are the ones made with an open heart, willing to listen and adapt. In the whispers of the wind, Aaron heard it again. Man's plans are fragile, but God's plan is eternal. And in surrendering to that truth, he had found peace beyond any dream he could have ever envisioned.